Hello, hello again, possums. Yes, it is I, the conspicuous moo. And as I mentioned in one of my previous videos recently, I've been having a bit of a what's going to be my main job in Endwalker sort of problem. But I believe I may have hit pay dirt with Ninja. I'm not sure yet, but it's feeling pretty good. And before you ask, how on earth did you get all the way through the main story quest without a main job? I took a tank up, the best tank, obviously. Now, the best tank was obviously not Dark Knight. I mean, aesthetically, completely, no, not interested. Paladin, look, I really wanted to love Paladin, and I've really struggled all my time in Final Fantasy to love Paladin, but, that sword and board just doesn't particularly do it for me. Gunbreaker was a very, very close second. I did like a lot of the elements of Gunbreaker, but at the end of the day, I wanted to keep it simple. Nice, big, two-handed axe, swinging people's faces, absurd healing, and probably needs to be taken down a potency or two. Yes, I leveled as a warrior, and it was wonderful fun. It's a little simple, but, it's my most enjoyable tank, I find, anyway. And I was going to level the Scholar, but then... The thing about the Scholar is it's very powerful, but it's not what I would consider fun right now. So I will level it, but it's kind of on the back burner at the moment. But it has left me with a gap, a main job gap. And, I just sort of picked up the Ninja. I had it at 40 before Endwalker began. And I thought, well, let's have another look through it. And my goodness, I've been having lots of fun. I am currently 78. So I'm almost in Endwalker now, that's basically since I finished the main story quest. It's been a great couple of weeks. Anyway, let's go into what I love about the ninjas. First of all, the Mundras system, or the Mundras system. I am going to mispronounce a lot of these, because I just don't know, and I'm not going to look them up. So, Ten, Chi, and Gen are the three... brothers in arms, if you like, and if you use different combinations of those, then you can activate different ninjutsu. It's quite a neat little system, and it does seem a little intimidating at first, for sure, but, once you've got the muscle memory down, it's actually quite good, and your only real enemy after that is lag, or your terrible internet connection. Moving on, so you have a lot of, your standard single target, like Raiton. Then you have your AoE, your standard AoE, which is Katon, which I always think, if you've ever seen the Pink Panther movies, you remember when Inspector Clouseau comes home after a hard day and then suddenly Kato, his servant, goes, Kato! Ah! That's what I think now, whenever I see Katon. And then you have a lot of other really flavorful ones like Suiton, where you can actually use Trick Attack while in combat, which is very, very useful. Because using Trick Attack, which you should be doing on cooldown, is kind of a unique ability to Ninja. It gives everyone, 5% additional damage on that boss or that mob or whatever it is. And then there's my favourite, the Mega Shart. Doton, which you drop on the ground as long as everything is staying in it, and yes, I've been there with that pain when the tank moves it out because it thinks it's a mob ability and it's mine, stay in it please, it does damage. But yeah, I love Doton, just to drop it down, have it swirl around for 24 seconds, doing damage to everything inside it. The other thing about the Mudra system is, of course, if you screw up, you get punished. And you don't get punished by, you lose 5% of your health or anything, you just get humiliated with a rabbit on your head. So everybody knows that you screwed up. So I see quite a lot of rabbits at the moment because I'm still learning Ninja, it's a lot of fun. But I will get Mudras wrong, and sometimes, the server might be a little heavy. I mean, I'm on Tonbury, which is one of the heavier servers. And was certainly a bit of a lag fest last night, so it turned out that I was firing quite a few more shuriken than I really wanted to, and I had a lot of bunnies on my head as a result. So the Ninka system isn't particularly complicated, and I haven't got all the abilities yet. I've just got the two. I've got a single target, which is Bakakavra, which is, it's a nice burst and costs 50 Ninka, and then the other one that costs 50 Ninka is called Hell Frog Medium, which of course, because it's a ninja, is a large lava frog that does a huge, puddle of fire. Nice area of effectability, to be sure, but I'm not sure why it's a frog. Still looking into that one. But yeah, I mean, because you have these two different systems, you've got the Mudra and you've got the Ninka, you've always got something to do. You've always got to keep an eye on other things. And if that wasn't complicated enough, you've got Huton. Now, who's Huton? Well, it's one of those things you lie down on, isn't it? It's like a sofa. But also, it reduces the weapon skill recast time by 15% and your auto attacks, so basically everything gets a little bit quicker, and so it's definitely worth keeping up. Usually a 60-second buff, and can be reapplied by the use of Armor Crush. It gives another 30 seconds. And, you know, I see a lot of complaints about Huton, and, like, it's kind of an old mechanic. It kind of reminds me of the old slice and dice in World of Warcraft. It's something you need to maintain to keep up in order to keep your damage, you know, up. And I kind of like it, to be honest. I mean, you know, it's another thing to keep track of, but it's not particularly difficult to do. You know, it is a full minute. If it was 30 seconds, it might be a bit more of a pain because it would, you know, be dropping off twice as often. But, you know, that 1 minute allows for certain circumstances either side because, you know, you're going to have to make that decision. Just in your main attacking combo, you know, you get to AoE on the edge, which is slightly better damage from behind, or you have to do Armor Crush, which refreshes Hoton for another 30 seconds, but you have to do that from the flank. And so that does slightly less damage, so that's the decision you have to make. You know, you've got 38 seconds left on your Huton. You're going to go for an Armor Crush, or do you reckon you can get another Alien Edge in and then do an Armor Crush, but as long as there isn't something else that needs to be pressed as well, which is even more damage? And, you know, frequently that is the case. So it's an interesting decision-making process you're doing in the middle of your fights. So apart from the, you know, the slightly incomprehensible relation between ninjas in Doma and hellfrogs, we have Dream Within a Dream as well. Now, I've only actually had that happen to me a couple of times where, you know, you wake up and you're actually in a dream but you don't realize it, and then you wake up again, and it's quite disorientating. But at no point was it, you know, 3 very, very visceral slashes with a pair of knives. I still struggle to understand what the Dream Within a Dream thing is all about. But, you know, one of my favourite things is, you know, when everything comes together and everything's timed properly by a competent ninja, I would assume, so that's not me. But you can get some wonderful AoE combos out of this, you know, area of effect. So, you know, you have your standard Death Blossom, which is throwing a few knives around, and then you've got Hake Mujinsatsu. Sorry for the pronunciation, which is the combo for that, and it gives you a little extra Ninka, and it looks very pretty. It's got little triangles going around it. Then you've got your Hellfrog, of course, because why not? Then you've got Katon jumping out of the coven and attacking Inspector Clouseau. Then you've got Doton, blessed be the Doton, and then Gokka Mekiak. Definitely have not pronounced that right. But it's basically a bigger Katon, like, you know, it's like 2 Katons like welded together with a bit of sellotape and staples, and just a sprinkle of lemon juice. Anyway, things get very, very colourful very, very quickly, and it's nice fast-paced business. Now, of course, there are always disadvantages as well. No job is perfect, and I think I'm kind of spoilt myself by leveling healers and tanks for the most part in Final Fantasy because, you know, you're pretty much immune to everything. And going in as a DPS with slightly less defensive and healing options has made me a little bit on the squishy side. So I have learned to run away now when it just doesn't look like I'm going to win, and I had to leave Fuzzy the Chocobo to deal with the aftermath of my own actions there. So yeah, Fate bosses, sometimes it depends whether it's, you know, one of those ones that you can actually solo or one of those ones that actually does require a group, and what are you doing. You can usually work out fairly early on that this is going to be a losing battle. It doesn't matter how many cooldowns and how quickly they come off. So yeah, I mean, there is one ability at the moment that is getting on my nerves a little bit, and it's not Kasatsu in terms of cooldowns. It's because that's great. I mean, it's actually been upgraded recently, about 76. You get to augment. Basically, if you use Kasatsu, so you get 30% additional damage on top for your next ninjutsu ability. But yeah, I mean, you get the Super Katon, like the massive explosion, but you can also get Hyosho Ranryu. And yes, once again, I've murdered it. But basically, that takes Hyoton, which is an ability that I practically haven't used except accidentally when I press the wrong buttons, because it's a slow, it's a bind, might have a PvP use, who knows, but yeah, once it becomes Hyosho Ranryu, it is a single target super nuke, 1200 potency, smashes straight through. They really feel that one when it hits, and it looks very pretty as well, definitely a bonus. Nope, it's not Kasatsu, it's Tenchi Jin. So Tenchi Jin is a 2-minute cooldown, and basically you have free use of the 3 mudras available, and depending on your combination, you can either do a nice little single target, you can do some AoE, or if you really want, you can go into like a Suiton as well. Generally speaking, I'll use it for first Shuriken, then a Katon, and then a Doton if I want to do an area of effect, because that seems rather effective. But if I'm on single target, I will usually just go Shuriken, then Raiton, lovely. and then Sweet On, and then use Trick Attack. Because if Trick Attack is up, then, you know, I'm going to give everyone else the ability to do additional damage, and I've got that on them as well. And it's, you know, it's a nice nuky ability. Its main problem is that if you move so much as a millimeter, the whole thing cancels. And for, you know, melee generally have to be fairly maneuverable. This is the one ability which requires you to stand absolutely stock still, which doesn't really work in terms of, you know, a lot of the boss encounters where you've got like orange circles shooting out all over the place. And, you know, if you time this incorrectly, you're completely stuffed. You can either stand in the orange and hope that you don't get killed, or you can move out and the whole thing cancels altogether. So not a terribly big fan of the way it's designed at the moment. I think it's a little bit too punishing if you make a mistake. But, you know, that's only really one problem from the entire job, so I'm quite pleased with that, really. Now, Hurricane is a new ability that came in Endwalker. You get it at level 60, and basically it's 200 potency single attack that applies Huton for 60 seconds. That's very, very useful, but, you know, obviously it is a DPS loss. If you just apply it when you first go into combat, you should technically still be using those Mundras. Get your Hoton up before you actually go in to start your fighting up. So, you know, it's useful in a situation where you completely forget about Huton because you were doing all of this other stuff and suddenly it's dropped off, and you need to reapply it as soon as possible. It's still a mild damage loss, but at least you can get it back up nice and quickly. So it's useful for rubbish ninjas like me. My only real source of suffering at the moment is, because I've been doing a lot of dungeons, just leveling, doing fates and stuff, especially in dungeons, you know, I don't know what the tank's going to do, and I've now learned that I don't drop a Doton until I'm absolutely sure that he's going to stay with the pack of mobs, because otherwise he'll just run off into the distance because he's doing a wall-to-wall pull. There's usually a 60-70% success rate on that, because, you know, there are a lot of sages coming through at the moment and they're sort of going, what are you doing? Anyway, yes, so I have to wait until I'm absolutely sure that he's not going to move anywhere, because if he moves out of the Doton, I'm not going to get any damage. It's just going to be this circular shard, just whizzing around on the floor, not doing an awful lot, and I'm going to look like a bit of a numpty. And I think it's later on... There's like a passive buff that's coming up in Endwalker, which gives me an extra 50 earth damage, I think. So yeah, I mean, it's going to get even stronger, so that's great. As you might have noticed, Doton's my favourite. But yeah, you know, in general, in dungeons, I haven't felt underpowered by any means. You know, some of the potencies were lowered, but I think that was more of a correction because, you know, there was the difference between the physical and the magical damage, and they corrected that when they were going into Endwalker. You know, the job really flows very, very well. Apart from TCJ, Tenchi Jin, it really does flow very well together. You know, there's a lot going on. You need to concentrate and make sure that you've got Huton up, but you know, you've got your Mundras out. Is Trick Attack available? If it is, then you're going to have to do a combination that gives you Sweet On, so you can use Trick Attack and do the additional damage. Are you just going to do Right On if it's single target? Are you going to do Katon if it's AoE? Are you going to use Kasatsu and then turn it into Super Katon? It has a long name. I forget what it is because I've only just got it, but it's very pretty. Lots of big explosions. Are your Hell Frogs ready? You know, so... Like I said, there's a lot going on, and that makes it very, very satisfying. And if you pull it off, it's wonderful. If you don't, you look like a complete numpty, and you have a rabbit on your head. So I kind of like that too, though. You know, it's just like, you suck, and we know it. So, you know, if you are looking for a melee to take into Endwalker, then, you know, I'd like to nudge you in Ninja's general direction. Seems to be going very, very well so far. It is really, for me anyway, it is a lot of fun, and you know, like I say, I'm almost at 79 now. I'm definitely going all the way to 90 with Ninja, and I'm probably going to stay there because I'm really enjoying myself. Anyway, enough for now. I will be back relatively soon. If I don't make another video before the festivities begin, then have a very, very Merry Christmas, and I'll definitely make a video before the New Year. I don't think I could go that long without one. Right, and well, it depends how drunk I am. Maybe I'll make a drunk video, that could be interesting. And may you get all the popotos that you desire. But anyway, until next time, I am the Conspicuous Moo. Toodaloo.